¿Qué empieza?
Hola,
yo soy Bilal, me encanta. De nada. Estás loco peruanito, tío. No puedo, Eso, linkear las cuentas para conseguir las alas. Son gratis.
We launched Siege of the Atlas, an expansion that drastically changed Path of Exile's mapping endgame. It removed Atlas regions and watchstones and introduced
resumiendo lo de la liga pasada.
Passive tree and 4 new pinnacle bosses to challenge.
Yo he sido Pinnacle boss.
One aspect of the new endgame is its modularity. We designed it in a way where it's easy to expand with more content.
Para que sea fácil, ¿vale?
Alongside the Sentinel Challenge League, this expansion doubles down on the best parts of Siege of the Atlas to give you ultimate control over your endgame experience.
Nos quieren dar más control. Sentinel Trailer, Sentinel League, Atlas Endgame Improvement, Game Balance in Path of Exile, Revamp Monster, Quality of Life. Ojo el Quality of Life. Ojo que se viene el trade. Ojalá.
The introduction of 20 Atlas Keystone passives, new variations on pinnacle boss fights, and powerful unique items designed by the winners of our Siege of the Atlas.
Crea otra cuenta de Twitch con otro navegador, Ridoti.
Following that, we'll discuss the type of balance changes we're making, or more interestingly, not making in this expansion.
Ojalá trade automático.
What we're doing with magic and rare monster modifiers, various quality of life.
Van a cambiar los.
Full release of controller support.
Van a cambiar los modificadores de los bichos raros. Uf, y los mágicos. Esto puede ser una hostia o un bufo para el Headhunter. A ver si viene el tráiler. El tráiler de Sentinel, se viene. Subir el volumen está al más. Ah, vale. Perdón. Ahí está.
In the wake of your power, something has arisen. Dark Sentinels, hungry for a share. But these cruel constructs can be harnessed.
¿Ale afecta a los bichos?
Bind them to your will.
¿Ves? Puedes llevar los 3. Se pueden craftear. ¡Dios!
Test and tinker. Combine.
¿Ves cómo se podían craftear? ¿Qué dices? ¿Ves? ¡Wow! ¡Qué guay! Es complejo, Es complejo. Mola, eso mola.
Some Sentinels are powerful. Others are dangerous.
Afecta a los bosses. Eso es buenísimo, tío. Liga de mapeo y bosses. Bien. ¡Keystones! ¡Keystones en el Atlas! ¡Se ha visto! ¡Uber Pinnacle bosses! ¡No needs! ¡Hola!
You will need
¡Uber Sirius! ¡Uber Sirius! ¿Qué es?
The Sentinels await your command.
I'm sure you have a lot of questions, so let's get started with a full explanation of the upcoming Sentinel Challenge League.
¡Cojones!
Sentinels are ancient constructs that have been unearthed across Rayclast. In this league, you will collect these Sentinels and attempt to harness their great power. But this symbiosis is not without risks. Once deployed, a Sentinel follows you, watching and waiting for you to enter combat. As you encounter enemies, the Sentinel will fire a beam that doesn't damage the enemy, but rather empowers them.
Vale, dispara a los enemigos y los potencia.
But also the rewards that it yields.
Dios.
There are 3 classes of Sentinels that you
Hay
will
3
find
tipos
as
de
you kill monsters
centinelas.
in this league.
Vale.
Stalker Sentinels will follow you for around 30 seconds, empowering dozens of monsters before they dissipate.
Vale, la roja lo que hace es cuando tienes 30 segundos y lo que alcances. Vale, eso para las builds rápidas, mola.
In contrast to
La
Stalker
azul
Sentinels, Pandemonium Sentinels are designed for mass area of effect and typically only fire 1 shot. But this shot really counts, chaining between monsters to affect an entire
la
stream full
azul
of foes at once.
solo dispara una vez,
This class
pero
of Sentinel
rebota
can
entre
be very
bichos.
dangerous because it empowers so many enemies at one time.
potencia muchos bichos de golpe.
The final class, Apex Sentinels, can only empower rare or unique enemies.
La amarilla solo afecta a raros. Podemos llevar 3. Podemos llevar las 3.
You start with a single slot to equip a Stalker Sentinel.
Empiezas con una.
But as you play through the league, you can eventually unlock 2 more Sentinel slots.
Y puedes llegar a tener 3.
One Sentinel of each class equipped at a time.
Muchas gracias,
Each class of Sentinel can be deployed only once per area that you play. You'll quickly develop various strategies for when each class of Sentinel is best used.
Vale,
for
eso
example,
puedes usar
saving
una
your
por área.
Pandemonium Sentinel for when you're surrounded by monsters, or using your Apex
Claro,
Sentinel
esa por
on a
ejemplo
map
para
boss or
cosas
league
como
content that
Legión,
spawns several rare
¿no?
monsters.
Tipo, la abres con Legión y se expande entre todos los bichos de Legión.
In every map, you'll get to empower bosses of your choice, juice up an entire screen at once with a button press, and choose the part of the map where it's best to empower a series
¿Qué hace
of
mapeando
dozens of
con Blade
monsters.
Flurry este señor? Está loco.
Sentinels cannot be damaged by monsters in combat, but do gradually deplete their internal power supply each time you use them. They can be found as you play and are incompatible with traditional Rayclastian crafting techniques. However, new
Hay
Sentinels with
quien
different
ataca
properties
rápido y
can be
quien no,
assembled
Kissel.
from the depleted
Supongo que habrá
husks of others that
variaciones.
you have used until their internal power
Se pueden
supplies
craftear,
run out. We'll explain
pueden
that crafting
craftear.
process in more detail later on. You can find magic Sentinels that have mods on them. These mods can augment the base properties of a Sentinel, extending its duration, making it empower monsters faster, increasing the number it can empower, or even the degree to which the monsters are empowered, affecting both their difficulty and rewards.
Vale. Pero vamos a
Some
ver.
mods will add specific
Dropean.
drops, such as currency items, essences, or
Hostia.
unique items to monsters empowered by the Sentinel, but at the cost of increasing how difficult the monster is to defeat.
Hostia.
You can also occasionally find rare Sentinels that have more than 2 mods on them. These are generally quite a lot more powerful than normal or magic Sentinels.
Ganas Tailwind cuando la usas.
Mods.
Y dispara 2
The
veces.
Sentinels you find as you explore Rayclast will become more powerful.
Oh.
Some particularly powerful ones with special properties
Hostia,
can only come from the process
27%
of
de que el
assembling
reward
new
se
Sentinels from
duplique.
depleted ones. While the Sentinels you find generally get better and better as you play through the league,
Esto me
you can
recuerda
also upgrade the
a
behavior and
Scouts, que
properties of
flipas.
Sentinels through your Sentinel Controller.
Vale.
The Sentinel Controller is like a runic circuit board. It's what powers your Sentinels and allows you to customize them. There are specific nodes for each of the 3 types of Sentinel, so you can customize the properties and behavior of all of them, or potentially focus on your favorite base types.
Puedes potenciarlas un poco todas o potenciar una.
As you play through the league and kill more and more enemies affected by your Sentinels, your controller will gain power.
Vale.
You start with 4
Como
units,
Scouts.
which is enough to power your first Sentinel slot and your first runic node. By the end game, you are able to work up to 30 power units, which is enough for almost half of the controller to be powered at once.
Vale, no
So
puedes
how do
llegar
you
a
choose
tenerlas
which runic
todas.
nodes to power? You do this by connecting them together with filaments. Power flows from the top of the circuit through the filaments until it is all in use by the nodes you have connected.
Como el juego de las
You can set up
tuberías.
filaments in advance and they'll automatically be used as more power becomes available. Moving filaments around has no cost. It's basically like a planning tool that gradually gets
planeas,
activated as you
vale.
gain more power throughout the league. So you're not locked into a specific plan and you can respec for free at any time.
Ah, puedes resetearlo gratis
Some
cuando
powerful
quieras.
runic nodes
Mola.
require 2 filaments and hence allocate more of your power when activated.
Vale, los nodos tochos
Additional
requieren
Sentinel
2.
slots for other types like Pandemonium and Apex Sentinels, for example, require 3 filaments and hence 3 power units each.
Vale, para
While it's almost always
desbloquear los
best to have all
slots
3 slots
necesitas
powered, so you
3.
can use all 3 Sentinels per area.
Vale.
There are niche strategies where you want to unpower specific Sentinel slots in order to have
Me
more
gusta
power
que se
for
pueda
additional
quitar y
runic
poner
nodes.
según tú
Also
quieras.
that you can fully
No
specialize
sé
in
qué
just 1 or
opináis.
2 Sentinel types.
Eso de
Just
resetarlo
to
free está
reiterate,
muy
you can
bien.
change your allocation as much as
Muy,
you
muy
like, so
bien,
feel free
tío.
to experiment.
Joder, qué guay esto, tío.
This
Me
powerful
gusta.
runic node allows Pandemonium Sentinels to be used an additional time each area. While this is basically pure upside, you should
Bien,
definitely
bien, bien.
plan around the facts
Una
that you'll be
mecánica
running
que
the
tiene
charge down pretty
quality of
quickly if
life
you use
antes
this
de que
node.
salga.
This runic node prevents your Stalker
No se vea
Sentinels
venir,
from empowering normal rarity enemies. While this seems very powerful at first because you'll just be empowering magic, rare, or unique enemies that benefit greatly from the boost to item drops, you should be aware that unless you have a large source of special enemies, you'll be fighting against the flight duration of your Sentinels and will probably want to
O sea,
build
tiene una
around increasing that duration.
manipulación muy guay.
While the Sentinel Controller lets you specialize how the different classes of Sentinels behave, it's generally not necessary to have to modify it for each new Sentinel that you equip. The runic nodes you have chosen represent your overall strategy for each class of Sentinel and rarely need to be tweaked if you swap one Sentinel for another.
¡Oh! O sea que si quieres cambiar un centinela por otro, la configuración de ese centinela se mantiene en ese. ¡Qué guapo!
But they don't need to be thrown away when this occurs. You can find power cores that let you assemble a new Sentinel with a full charge. This process disassembles two existing Sentinels and creates a hybrid of the two, with their properties combined together. Right-clicking a power core opens up an assembly screen.
Lol.
If you insert two Sentinels and click the Assemble button, a new, fully charged one will be created.
Están mal de la puta cabeza, Están mal de la cabeza. Están mal. Les encanta hacer interfaces de mierda feísimas, pero me caen muy bien.
It can either inherit properties from the input Sentinels or potentially produce new ones that weren't based on either of them. For example, the base type of the Sentinel could either be the left input Sentinel, the right input Sentinel, or an entirely new one that can't spawn naturally and can only come from this process.
Sí, como sintetizar, sí.
The same applies to
como
its modifiers.
Sintetizar y Awakener,
You generally get a mix of modifiers from the two input Sentinels, but sometimes they have their tiers upgraded or entirely new mods added, occasionally including ones that are exclusive to the assembly process. The end result is that you're usually getting Sentinels that are similar in function to the depleted ones you have combined, but occasionally mutate in new ways, producing results that unlock more power and possibilities.
Vale. Se pueden tradear, Se pueden tradear.
Combinations of depleted Sentinels that have just the right mods. It's also possible to assemble two Sentinels directly into one of the many valuable unique Sentinels.
La quantity afecta de la recompensa.
Specialized power cores exist, which influence the assembly process to greatly increase the chances of various interesting outcomes occurring. They don't guarantee anything, but absolutely worth considering if you're trying to hit unlikely assembly results.
No.
You may want to accumulate a small collection of depleted Sentinels so that you have options to assemble together. That's where the Sentinel Locker comes in. It's a free object that you can place in your hideout that allows you to store stacks of each of the Sentinel currency items, as well as a tab full of each of the three categories of Sentinel. You can also store Sentinels in regular stash tabs, and they can be freely traded with other players.
Lo que he dicho, se pueden tradear y se pueden guardar.
The affinity for Sentinels will also work with regular stash tabs while this league is active.
Uber-Sirus y Uber-Bosses
As I hinted at
Pinacles.
before, you can find or create unique Sentinels. These have powerful static properties, but because they cannot be combined with other Sentinels, there's no way to recharge them once they become depleted. They are essentially limited use items with powerful effects. Let's look at a few examples.
Ha dropeado un Sentinel.
First off, we have the Basilisk.
Vale.
This is a Pandemonium Sentinel that augments its wide area of effect blast with a petrification effect. Any monsters caught in the blast are turned to stone. Rather than being primarily useful for raising the risk and reward of combat like other Sentinels, this one is incredibly useful as an emergency button in combat. By activating the Basilisk,
hay algunas de ellas que las puedes utilizar como defensivas también.
Take control of dangerous situations.
Vale.
This unique Sentinel, the Hollow-Eyed Skull,
is
basically a headhunter in Sentinel form. There are also a set of unique Sentinels that are designed to empower specific named Atlas map bosses.
Te da un mini headhunter
if you activate one
temporal.
of these Sentinels while fighting that boss, it empowers the boss into an extremely dangerous version that is very, very rewarding if you can defeat it. The highly empowered boss fight is further scaled by whatever mods are on the map that contain
Empower
it,
Monster
so you
drop
want to be pretty
16
careful with what mods
currencies.
you choose to use. On the other hand, its rewards are scaled by reward bonuses on that map, so if you're able to defeat one of these bosses in a juiced map, you will certainly be greatly rewarded.
Vale.
These highly
Me gusta
empowered map
muchísimo
bosses
que
are
la
the best source
mecánica
of
sea
Recombinators,
bosses.
a new type of endgame currency item that can be found in the Sentinel League. Recombinators allow you to apply the Sentinel assembly process to two pieces of equipment of the same item class.
Fusionador de ítems, de bases.
Ways. This process can also rarely imbue your items with exclusive modifiers that don't normally spawn on that type of item. While the recombination process involves significant risks, you could combine the best parts of two rare items together, maybe getting a lucky exclusive mod spawn, and end up with one of the best weapons, armor pieces, or jewelry in Path of Exile. Sentinels can be deployed while engaging in other League content, so you can juice the risk and reward to quite crazy levels. For example, you could enter a Mirror of Delirium, trigger a breach, and deploy your Sentinel at the same time, causing the monsters to have three significant modifiers about their difficulty and rewards.
Va a ser la hostia.
There are only a few specific areas that Sentinels can't be deployed in, mostly for technical reasons, and those are unique maps, pinnacle Atlas bosses, and the Simulacrum. So that's Sentinel in a nutshell. It's a combat league that gives you heaps of control over the exact risk and reward you encounter. It stacks with other combat-enhancing league mechanics, juices your endgame bosses beyond any kind of reasonable difficulty, lets you play with temporary headhunters, and might even let a few players assemble some pretty insane rare items if they're lucky. We're very much looking forward to seeing your stories after you've had a chance to play with it next week.
Wow. Wow.
In addition to the Sentinel Challenge League, this expansion further improves on the new endgame introduced in Siege of the Atlas, its Atlas-wide passive tree and pinnacle boss fights.
Han puesto keystones
The
en
new
el
endgame
árbol.
was designed to give you ultimate
Esto es lo que
control
yo
over what kind
quería,
of content you want to play,
Esto es lo
and
que
how
yo
difficult
pedía en la
and
liga
rewarding you want
pasada.
it to be.
Y todo el mundo,
With the Sentinel
Bilal, es que eres
expansion,
loco,
we're
es que es un
doubling down on what
elitista.
makes this new endgame the best one Path of Exile has ever had.
Añadir cosas, joder.
This
Eso es lo que
expansion
mola.
introduces
Mira,
20
mira, mira,
powerful
mira.
keystone passives to
20.
the Atlas tree. As you know from the regular passive skill tree, keystone passives are usually dramatic and build-changing, with both upsides and potential downsides.
A ver.
Each keystone can completely change the way you play Path of Exile's endgame.
Te
We have
pueden
designed keystone
cambiar
passives for many
completamente
different
cómo
play
juegas
styles
el
and
juego.
situations.
A ver si es verdad. Enséñame alguna.
The second big change is that we have introduced these clusters of passives that grant you even more control over what endgame content you encounter.
¡Hostia!
As you know, you can encounter many different types of past league content randomly within
¡Hostia!
maps.
Puedes hacer
These
que
new
no te salga
passives
una
allow you to
mecánica.
prevent content
¡Qué
you don't
guapo!
enjoy from appearing randomly,
Puedes hacer que no
while
te salga una
simultaneously
mecánica y te da
causing
un
other content to spawn
2%
at a
que te
higher
salgan
rate.
todas las demás.
Aside from the obvious convenience of only encountering the past league mechanics that you choose,
Tus mapas no
the system
tienen
is great
haste.
for target farming specific content that you have juiced on your Atlas tree.
Vamos.
Thirdly, we have created incredibly difficult and rewarding Uber versions of 7 pinnacle boss fights, which can be accessed via 6
Los
new
Uber
keystone
bosses.
passives. These fights are designed to challenge the absolute best Path of Exile players, and suffice to say, they are brutally difficult. Let's take a look at some of the new keystones and boss fights. The singular focus keystone makes it significantly more likely that your favored maps will drop. If a map drops that is not one of your favored maps, it will be converted into a random currency item. This means that you'll exclusively see your favored maps, and outside of that, more currency. This is the realization of the I only want to play one map dream that some players have. It also helps players who are over-sustaining maps and would rather just get extra currency items.
Cambiar los drop de
The
mapas
Stream
por
of
currency.
Consciousness keystone prevents you from modifying your maps with fragments or scarabs, but means that when extra content is being rolled for your maps, each of the base
Wow.
chances is 50% higher. This is really useful for players who don't want to have to think about juicing their maps and would instead prefer to get a constant moderate bonus instead. The following 2 keystones are for very advanced players who have completed their Atlas trees and want to get a very specific outcome with all of their skill points.
Esto es para
The
lo de los
Wandering Path
mapas.
keystone increases the effect of small passives on your Atlas skill tree and disables
Esto
all
puede ser
notable passives.
Hostia. Hostia, eso está guapo.
The Grand Design keystone increases the monster pack size in each of your maps by an amount proportional to the number of notable passives you have allocated. However, the trade-off is that small passives
1%
have
de
no
pack size
effect.
por cada notable que pilles. 1% de pack size por cada...
These 2
Eso
keystones
puede
are
estar
very
roto,
good for specializing into maximizing pack size and quantity at the expense of specific league content, which is great for general Magic Find builds or Divination card farmers. The Twist of Fate keystone changes the behavior of corrupted rare maps in unpredictable ways. Upon entering a map, you may be sent to an alternative map of the same tier with randomized modifiers.
Gracias.
All of the master missions, scarabs, and
Oh, no.
carrot crafts applied to the map
Los
will
mapas
also be randomized.
corruptos en
This
cualquier
process
misión
will
del
not pick an
Atlas,
outcome
del
that
map
was already on the
crafteo.
map, so it always shifts it to a new property that you didn't have before.
No entiendo. Es
This means that
aleatorio
you can
todo.
play all of the scarabs, master missions, and maps that you enjoy, and any leftover ones can be randomized to new outcomes, which are guaranteed
O sea,
to not be the ones you
Puedes
started with.
utilizar los scarabs
This
de
may have
mierda
some
para que
interesting
sean
economic
random.
consequences as well, with players feeding bad scarabs or maps into the Twist of Fate lottery.
¡Hostia!
The Wellspring of Creation and Dance of Destruction keystones change the ratios of monster life and damage in maps on the Atlas so that they are more dangerous and less tanky, or vice versa.
Oh.
These 2 keystones are designed to be remedial, allowing players with an abundance of offense or defense to normalize themselves so that they can handle the
Si
content
quieres que
better.
tengan menos vida y
If you
hagan
find
más
yourself in a
daño,
situation where you're waiting for a
hostia.
weapon upgrade or can't fix your resistances, then you could
Para
allocate one of these
Blandy.
keystones to temporarily make things easier,
Eso me
before
ha gustado.
unallocating it later when your build
Eso
is
me ha
complete.
encantado. Eso me ha encantado.
6 new keystones create Uber versions of Path of Exile's pinnacle boss fights.
Uber Cortex,
Denarius,
Uber Sirius,
Cyrus,
Uber
the
Maven,
Maven, the Searing
Uber
Exarch,
Maven.
the Isha of Worlds, and the Shaper and Uber Elder,
Uber
who I
Elder.
guess is now called the Uber Elder.
Uber Elder.
Allocating one of these keystones on your Atlas passive tree ramps up the corresponding boss fights so that it is extremely difficult. Like, really hard. Harder than saying goodbye to Zana hard. Only allocate these keystones if your character is extremely powerful and you know you can handle the challenge. In general, the encounter's rules are modified to be far more punitive and difficult. In return, though, you can earn some very enticing rewards. Each of the Uber fights has an additional high chance reward and a chance of getting a very, very rare chase reward. For example, the Uber Maven guarantees an elevated sextant if you're able to complete the encounter. Very rarely, though, you may be able to earn an awakened exceptional support gem as well, such as Empower, Enlighten, or
Enlighten.
These keystones unlock crazy battles that will challenge our most aspiring players who are deep in Path of Exile's endgame. They add a new level of difficulty for those who want to push their builds even farther than they ever have before. The keystones we have shown you so far are designed around many different types of endgame players. Some glass cannon players struggle with defenses but have no problem with offense. Some players want to just play one map. Some players want the difficulties to be ramped up and to receive rewards commensurate with this added
quieren que si quieres hacer solo un mapa, puedes hacerlo. Quieres mapear, lo haces. Hagas lo que quieras hacer en el endgame, puedes hacerlo. Wow.
There are a number of other new keystones that we'll reveal before release. Like the ones we have shown you today, these keystones require you to consider your endgame plan in an entirely new light. We're very interested to see what strategies you will use to try to conquer the new Uber Pinnacle bosses. Before we get into the new unique items, there are a few other endgame Atlas changes that we should cover. We are removing Vinctar's Square and Doriani's Machinarium from the Atlas of Worlds because they're not natural map drops. You can still get and play these maps, of course, but they aren't
esos mapas siguen dropeando, pero ya no cuentan para el bonus. Eso está guay.
Their Atlas passive points have been moved to rewards for defeating the Infinite Hunger and the Black Star.
Vale, esos 2 puntos ahora te lo van a dar estos 2 bosses.
We have rebalanced influence altars and maps. They now feel a lot different than they did in the form they were introduced in Siege of the Atlas.
Vale.
Their downsides now feel more impactful and they have more diversity of rewards, including new rewards. The intention is to fulfill the original design goal of having an ultimatum-like choice about whether you want to accept additional challenge for additional reward. We've added better Atlas tree support for them, including 2 keystones that can affect them. We've also rebalanced the drop weightings of the new Pinnacle Atlas bosses, changing the relative drop weightings of their unique rewards and making them more likely to drop Eldritch currency.
Vale. Dropearán más currency
Currently,
ahora.
in Siege of the Atlas, Elder and Shaper Scarabs are basically worthless because their influence is worse than the free influence you can get from the Eater of Worlds and the Searing Exarch.
¿Y qué van a hacer?
In Sentinel, you can now apply multiple types of influence to one map. So you could have Eater of Worlds influence alongside a Shaper or Elder Scarab on a Conqueror map. Together, these 3 influences combined have a very large effect on that map, and this will make Elder and Shaper Scarab significantly more desirable. The start point of encountering Shaper, Elder, or Conqueror influence and influence items has been raised to level 81 areas.
¡Lo sabía! ¡Tier 19! ¡Tier 19!
We've also fixed an issue that was causing some players to skip playing most of the
Espera, no lo he escuchado bien.
On the lower
Pero
half of the
toquetea
Atlas
el
passive
item level
tree,
del mapa,
there were
¿no?
a lot of small skills that granted a 2% chance for the map boss to drop an additional map. This meant that it was possible to sustain maps by rushing to those bosses and ignoring every other monster in the map.
¿Sube el nivel por cada influencia que
Bonus, but have
pongas?
changed it so the map drops from a random monster within the map rather than the boss.
Enséñalo.
We're also addressing an issue with the way that you acquire Maven boss fight invitations. Currently, it's possible that you get hit with a bad streak of RNG and haven't found an invitation by the time you have enough bosses witnessed. You can now purchase these invitations from Kirak for a moderate price if you need to.
Pero si caen a montones. Caen a montones, ¿no? No he terminado de escucharlo.
At the launch of the Siege of the Atlas expansion, we hosted a competition that saw players racing to be the first to kill
New
Path of
Endgame
Exile's
unique
pinnacle
items.
bosses in hardcore solo
Los
self-doubt
ítems que
mode.
pusieron la última vez
The main
fueron una
prize for
locura.
doing so was the ability to collaborate with us on the design of a unique item that would drop from a boss in Path of Exile's endgame.
Han utilizado a lo...
5 of these uniques
¿Lo
have been
habéis
designed
visto?
so far and will be featured in this expansion. The 6th one will be released once the winner has time to
¿Habéis
design
visto?
it,
El map
very
de...
likely in
Mira.
319.
Ah, vale, el favorite slot. Vale, no he dicho nada.
Call of the Void is a new cold-themed ring that was designed by Lighty and will drop from the Uber
Lighty.
Elder. It causes all damage to chill and causes chilled enemies to shatter on death, as though they were frozen. On top of this, chilled enemies deal less damage back to you based on the magnitude of the chill affecting them.
Ah,
The only
para
drawback is that all
self-chill.
incoming damage also chills you, but there are many ways to mitigate this, and in some cases it's
Vale.
beneficial to builds that utilize self-chill as part of some
No, es para
crazy combo.
self-chill. Es para
This string is
self-chill.
useful for a wide variety of different
No
endgame
riáis
builds.
del self-chill que flipas. Que
Echoes of
flipas.
Creation is a new unique helmet also designed by Lighty, which will drop from the Shaper. It's designed for builds that use Warcries and grants an extra use before cooldown to Warcry skills that are socketed in the helmet. It also grants more damage to
11% de more
exerted
damage
attacks
por
based on
cada
the number of
Warcry.
Warcries affecting them. It
¿Cómo?
causes you to take damage when you use these attacks. The self-damage number looks really scary, but it can be mitigated by various mechanics such as armor, endurance charges, and life recovery. This powerful niche helmet is ideal for characters that try to use as many Warcries as they can. The third Lighty unique being introduced is the Burden of Truth, a unique belt which will drop from Cyrus. Broadly speaking, this belt encourages you to have healthy energy shield and life pulse and helps you to achieve
tienes
this by
vida y
granting you
energy
additional
shield.
energy shield
Vale.
based on the percentage of your
Supreme
maximum
Decadence.
life
¿Qué es
value.
eso?
The belt both lets some portion of chaos damage hit your energy shield, but also causes some non-chaos damage to bypass your energy shield like it was chaos damage. This is often an upside because
pero esto
splitting
se puede
damage over both
combinar
life
con
and
el
energy shield lets you
cacharro.
recover both simultaneously. The Supreme Decadence keystone that this belt grants, which is previously restricted to timeless jewels, causes your life flasks to apply to both your life and energy shield at a reduced
que los
rate.
frascos apliquen a la energy shield
Overall,
también.
this belt is extremely powerful for characters who can build to have a decent energy shield pool while also using life flasks.
Está muy guapo
appropriately.
eso, Más para hardcore en verdad. No creo que para
The
softcore.
fourth new
funcione.
item that we're featuring today was created by Waggle. It's an amulet called the Eternal Struggle, which will drop from either the Infinite Hunger or the Black Star. The amulet has a pair of Eldritch mods, and the one that is dominant will be based on which of the bosses dropped it. The dominant mod also controls whether the amulet gives a Malignant Madness or Culling Strike bonus. You'll need to work out which of the two bosses to farm based on
Pero
which
es un
half of the
amuleto,
amulet
¿no?
you want to activate.
10% de global
The final
defenses.
unique we're showcasing today was designed by Steel Mage. It's a unique jewel that drops from the Maven. The jewel refers to a random keystone on your passive skill tree and enables you to be able to allocate passives within a radius around that keystone without them being connected to the rest of the tree.
LOL.
While the keystone itself cannot be allocated, this jewel allows you to jump across great distances on the passive tree in a very skill point efficient
Qué
way.
guapo. Claro, tiene la pasiva
In addition to
aleatoria.
these uniques that have come from the boss kill competition, we have added new unique items to the Uber Pinnacle boss fights that can be accessed through some of the new keystone passives. These include a different variation of Thread of Hope that can drop from Uber Cyrus, a new unique jewel which can drop from the Uber Shaper, and special Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh jewels which can roll exclusive Ascendancy notable passives that are not available anywhere else in the game.
9 lives de qué es?
You'll notice that our last endgame expansion was just 3 months ago, and we're already extending the endgame even further. This is our plan for
9
every
lives,
expansion
¿qué es?
leading up to the release
¿Qué
of
es lo
Path
de
of
9
Exile
lives?
2. Rather than having a much bigger annual expansion, we plan to add as many endgame improvements into each quarterly expansion as we can, alongside its new challenge league, so that there are new challenges to overcome every
Wow.
time you come back to Path of Exile. One of the subtle but important aspects of our plan is to keep adding powerful new chase rewards to Path of Exile's endgame, so that there are always new reasons to complete aspirational content. The boss kill competitions are great because they not only create these rewards, but also immortalize the achievements of some of Path of Exile's best players.
¿Qué
We're going to
cojones?
run another boss kill competition at the launch of
¿No
Sentinel.
queríais una pelea
This time,
chunga? Pues
players
ahora
will have to
sufrid,
defeat the
cabrones.
Uber versions of boss fights that are unlocked by the special keystone passives. We'll post full information in the lead up to release.
Qué guapo.
We're going to try something new with character balance in this
Van a
expansion.
probar algo nuevo en el
We're
balance.
intentionally making no changes to character power. That means no nerfs, no buffs, nothing. Every single build and build guide made for Siege of the Atlas will work exactly the same in Sentinel. You can start planning your league starter right now. with
No va a
full
haber ni
confidence about
nerfeos
exactly
ni
how it's going to
buffos.
play. However, build exploration is still required in
Y
3.18.
pone Lightning Strike.
Sentinel introduces many difficult challenges, both in the Challenge League itself and in the endgame content. And you're going to have to work out a plan to create characters that are able to handle this content. But at this release, you can hit the ground running, knowing with confidence which builds are a good starting point for you. We don't intend to do this character balance freeze every release. For example, 3.19 definitely contains planned changes to character balance. Even though there are no character balance changes in 3.18 though, we have still made some changes to actual game content. For example, let's talk about the changes to monster modifiers. Magic and rare monsters in Path of Exile get a lot of their power from their modifiers. We came up with the majority of the monster mods over a decade ago, and only substantially added to them with the introduction of the Nemesis and Bloodlines leagues in 2013 and 2014. These mods
Cambios
are
a los
unfortunately
raros.
showing their age.
¿Qué
Many
hace?
of them are unimpactful, and it's quite hard to quickly read their descriptions in the heat of combat. What we need is a new set of mods that are highly impactful in combat, keyworded with 1 to 2 colored words that are easy to
Vale, le
read
van a
at a
meter
glance,
los
and capable of
modificadores de
producing dangerous
Archinémesis
combinations.
a los bichos de
This is
forma
exactly
rara
what
por
we
el
designed
mapa.
the Archnemesis
Hijo de
mods
la
to be, a
grandísima.
replacement for the core monster mod pool.
Pone Bombardier y
From
Arcane
3.18
Buffer.
onwards, all previous monster mods have been replaced by
Gargantúa y
Archnemesis mods.
Vampir.
No other part of the Archnemesis League has been retained, so there's no more inventory or recipe management. Magic monsters have one Archnemesis mod,
Que van a
shared
hacer que
across
los
their pack,
Archinémesis
and rare monsters typically have
salgan
2 mods.
buildeados.
However, it's possible to encounter rare monsters with 3 or even 4 Archnemesis mods on them. Combinations of multiple synergistic mods can create quite interesting situations.
Ahora los
in
raros
combat.
sí son raros.
For
Acaba de decir
example, if you
Aperta.
encounter a monster with both
100%.
Storm Strider and Ice
100%.
Prison, the Ice Prison may
Mola
block
que
you off so
flipas
that you are
esto
more likely
también.
to run
O
into
sea,
the
va a ser
lightning
una tocada de
barrages from the
huevos,
Storm
pero va a
Strider
estar
mod.
muy guapo.
We've done a balance pass over the Archnemesis mods before making them core. Some have certainly had their power reduced, particularly when applied to magic monsters.
Han bufado y
We've also
nerfeado.
changed how monster
Los han
experience and
balanceado.
drops are calculated.
Vale. Porque
So
había
it's now
algunos que
far
eran
more
literalmente
about the difficulty of
imposibles.
the mods than about the proportional size of the monster.
Estoy como para
Various
toparme con
Nemesis and Bloodlines
minibosses.
modifiers that were not represented in the Archnemesis mod pool have been added in different ways.
Nah, no creo que esté en esto en Actos, Octoyuko.
Path of Exile's challenge system has remained the same for the last 21 leagues.
Cambian el
Sentinel,
sistema
we
de
had a look at
logros.
whether there were any
Bye.
easy ways we could update it based on what we have learned over the last 6 years. Our plan is to retain the model of 40 challenges with rewards that unlock as you progress through them,
Ay, Dios
but with a
mío.
goal of providing substantially more challenge to endgame players and substantially more rewards to go with it, of course.
Más logros
In order
y
to
más
achieve this, we've
recompensa.
crunched down the easier challenges so that the first reward unlocks after only 6 and the second at 12. These are equivalent in difficulty to 12 and 24 challenges from the old system, respectively. This change gives
O sea,
us
va a haber
lot more space
recompensa al
to ramp
6 y
up
al
to some
12 porque van a ser
incredibly
mucho más
difficult challenges towards the end,
difíciles.
which will take a lot of time and
Y del
skill
12 al
to complete.
24 va a ser súper
There are now 10
complicado.
different rewards you can unlock, which comprise 2 complete armor sets, each with a pair of wings. But be warned, the challenges you
Puedes
must complete are
completarlo
much
entero.
harder than any
El
we have
set
ever set you
entero.
before. We've been experimenting with support for game controllers on the PC version of Path of Exile. During the Archnemesis League, we began a beta for controller support and have been
Esto lo
making
metieron esta
improvements based on
temporada
your suggestions
como
and
prueba,
feedback.
como
We're
para
pleased to announce
jugar
that
en
controller
ordenador
support
con
on
mando.
PC will officially launch alongside the Sentinel expansion. This also means that Path of Exile is now fully playable on the Steam Deck for those of you who are lucky enough to have one so far.
Mierda. Dije que si el PoE funcionaba en el Steam Deck regalaría uno.
Alongside
Quality
finishing
of
controller
Life.
support for
Luego
PC,
hablamos de
we've also
esto.
done a push on various small quality of life features in this expansion, which we'll reveal over the coming days. An example is that you can now choose whether your hideout portals can be accessed by one of 4 options: everyone, your friends, your guild members, or no one. We have also improved how favored maps are selected on the atlas. Rather than having to click on the map on the atlas for every slot, you can instead click on one of your existing favored maps to quickly copy it to the new slot. This makes it a lot faster to favor many instances of the same map at once. There are plenty more small QOL features crammed into Sentinel, and we'll cover these over the week leading up to release.
¿Qué más?
Early in the Archnemesis League, we debuted Kerrick's Vault Pass. Purchasing this
El
pass
Timo
grants you
Pass.
access to Kerrick's Vault, where you can claim exclusive unique item skins as you complete map bonus objectives in the Atlas endgame. The Vault Pass for the Archnemesis League is only available for a few more days and will leave the store forever when this league ends. There's no penalty for purchasing the pass late in the league after you've wrapped up your map completion. So if you are pleased with where you got to in Archnemesis and want to lock in your unique skins, it's not too late to buy your pass now.
Ay, buen
Thank you
spameito.
to everyone who unlocked Kerrick's Vault. We had a lot of fun putting it together and tried to think of fun ways that unique item skins can interact with gameplay in a visual way. The purchases directly fund development of both Path of Exile 1 and 2. A brand new Vault Pass will launch alongside the Sentinel League. Like the previous one, there are 8 exclusive unique item skins that can be unlocked as you complete map bonus objectives. We'll post full details on these new
Vale,
rewards closer to launch.
pondrán uno nuevo y ya está.
To buy either the Archnemesis Pass now, before it leaves the store forever,
No
or the
banco,
Sentinel
no
one
me
when the
gusta.
expansion launches, go to pathofexile.com/vault. Alongside today's livestream, we're launching 2 new series of
A
supporter
ver los
packs,
supporter
the
packs.
Arcanist and
Recordad que
Reaper
hemos
packs.
sorteado hoy 2
Each
de
tier contains
estos.
the pack's full face value in points, plus several exclusive microtransactions.
Vamos a ver.
These packs are only available during the Sentinel League and will leave the store forever in 3 months. Every microtransaction you're about to see is entirely cosmetic and does not affect your character's progression or power.
Vale, son skins. Okay.
The Arcanist Pack series contains 7 exclusive microtransactions.
7. Eso no es
The
mucho.
Cloak of Elements indicates the power of your fire, cold, and lightning resistances on your back.
Este es el de...
When a resistance is capped, the effect is extra strong.
Ah, anda. Qué chulo.
While wearing the Ring of the Black Star, your level up effect looks like this.
El leveling up. ¡Hala, qué guapo! Yo
In
quiero.
the Timekeeper's hideout,
Eso me
you
lo voy a
can use the
comprar.
chronosphere to change the time of day from dawn to noon to dusk to night.
Está guapo. Está guapo.
With Chevron's tome on your belt, identifying items will cause exploding books to appear nearby.
What?
The Mage Blue map device blossoms with greater intensity as you open higher
qué
tier maps.
bonito.
With the soul-stunning weapon effect attached to your weapon, any attacks that stun will cause your enemies to have an out-of-body experience.
Una mierda.
Drinking from the searing quicksilver flask
Si no son
causes an explosion
efectos
and sets your
celestiales, no me
character on
gustan.
fire.
Así haces que los enemigos
The
exploten.
Reaper Pack series also has 7 exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. The Soul Harvester's Cloak's power is based on the number of enemies your character has killed.
LOL.
With the Belt of the Hive Queen equipped, flasks you use will cause blood-sucking insects to appear all over your character.
Utilizar frascos hacen que crezcan plantas en
The
ti.
Ghostlit Graveyard is a hideout where you can control the color of its torches. It also comes with 6 exclusive hideout decorations.
Meh.
Medidrone will follow you around and use a healing beam on you whenever you're gaining life. Thanks, Medidrone.
Puta mierda.
The Underworld Portal opens a gateway to Hell. Its effect
¿Cómo?
upgrades in Part 2 and again in maps, where it indicates what tier of map you're playing.
Ah, cuanto más alto sea el tier, el efecto es más demoníaco. Eso me ha
While wearing
gustado.
the Ring of the Exorcist, any spells you cast will exorcise the ghosts of your enemies if you crit. While using the Grim Reaper apparition, the Reaper will appear and cull any unique or rare enemies you slay. As I mentioned before, these packs are exclusive to the Sentinel League and will leave the store in 3 months. They're available right now at pathofexile.com/purchase, and they directly fund the ongoing development of Path of Exile 2
Mira,
and Path of
si
Exile 1
estos son
expansions like Sentinel.
del pase de
We greatly
temporada,
appreciate your support. Thanks for joining us and checking out today's
bueno, da
reviews.
igual.
We
Es
can't wait to
que
see you in Ray Class
a
on
mí,
May
a mí el de
13th.
subir de nivel me ha
We'll begin the
gustado, la
Q&A
verdad.
in a few moments,
Pero
so
porque es
please get your
celestial y me
questions ready in
gustan
chat.
todos. Wow. Vale. Wow. Dale like y suscríbete y esas cosas.